So our special guest today is E.L Giles. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric, and how you got started in the horror genre.
Yeah, I started really young to be interested in horror in particular, horror movies. I grew up in the 80s, so I watched Halloween and Freddy Krueger, and I was really stuck about it. And yeah, I remember when I was young, I loved these movies, and when I turned 10 or 11, I started more into music, and I was all into metal music, death metal, and this is what started me into my artistic journey. And so I started doing music, and the most horrific riffs and most horrific artwork and all. So yes, I've done music for like 20 years before I just got tired and started writing instead of making music or drawing or whatever.
Fantastic. So what drew you to the horror genre specifically?
Mostly cosmic horror, but I love psychological horror too. Those are my main genre of predilection.
And what was the first horror story that you wrote?
Sorry?
What was the first horror story that you wrote?
Sorry, I have a really bad time with my speakers. Could you repeat but slowly, please?
That's fine. So what was the first horror story that you wrote?
Sure. Sorry. Yeah, when I started in 2016, I started with short stories, so nothing published though. They were weird art, cosmic horror, because I just started with H.P. Lovecraft and Robert W. Chambers, and I read Hounds of Tindalos, and I don't know, I was really drawn into writing this kind of stuff, but I never published anything I wrote until like 2018 maybe, and it was more into science fiction, dystopian. So before I jumped back into horror, it was like a year or two later when I started pitching short stories to indie publisher and anthologicals. So I just discovered then the Australian indie publisher Black Hair Press, and I started adding short pieces of work like drabbles and short stories published with them, and I started over writing horror and really focusing on it, in fact.
So you said you did drabbles.
Yeah.
How do you do those? Because they are like 100 words, aren't they? So how do you manage to get something that's in there?
They're a bit tricky. I had to play around a bit because 100 words precisely is kind of a bit of a work to get done, but once you get the exact pacing to set your story, it's not this hard to write, but you need really to understand the precise pacing to get them. I tried flash fiction, like 500 words, but those I can't write them. I've never been able to adjust the pacing so I can write them, strangely.
Yeah. So you said you can't really do it for the flash fiction. How can you do it for the 100 words?
Yeah, I see them more like poems. So I will just read a bit of poems and read other drabbles. I know exactly how to write them, like it's just a scene or just one single event. It's not so I don't struggle too much to get them done. But 500 words, you need like more than just one scene, one event. You need a bit more stuff, more meat around the bones, and I don't know why I can't pull them. I don't know why.
Okay, so how do you go about creating a story? So where do you get your ideas from?
It really depends on my mood. I can get ideas when I'm watching a movie, a series, reading, like about probably anyone else. Something would just struck me when I'm walking in the street or whatever. Recently, I've kind of had a really productive period where I just pulled a lot of stories, ideas, and I discovered that the more I read indie authors, the more I get inspired, because there's a lot of different ideas, a lot of different stuff going on, and it's just fantastic. I don't know, it's really diversified, and discovering all the new voices or the ones that are there for a bit longer, and reading all their ideas, how they pull this or that tropes. It's fantastic and really inspirational, and it inspires me a lot.
Yeah. So what's your favorite trope to write about?
Generally, I write about I will say depressive stuff. I'm more to deep, dark feelings, suicide, death, desperation. I work more on the ambience, the atmosphere, and feeling of dread and oppression. That's more my writing style, rather than gory stuff or whatever. So it's more character driven and psychologically driven, more than action after action after action and fast-paced stuff.
So how do you develop your characters? Do you base those on experiences or your own fears that you've had?
Yeah, I basically write about my dark moods. No, past depressions and all the nasty stuffs you need to just get out. When I was into music, I could just I was a singer, so I could just groan and scream and whatever. It was really I could free then these nasty emotions, this nasty stuff. But when I started writing, I struggle a lot to really dig into these emotions and just put it on paper, which is why I started writing science fiction instead of horror, because I probably mentally wasn't ready to just dig into my, let's say, dark modes, in fact, and really start to exploit them. And the more I do it and the more I see that it's beneficial and people can relate to the stuff you write, and yeah, me too, I struggle with this or that, and you're like, okay, cool, so you're not alone. But it took me years before I had the courage to just use all this personal stuff, and yeah.
I mean, a lot of authors say that it's hard, but it's also cathartic to use your own experiences as well, because they find it like that it's sort of like therapy for them.
Yeah, it's you really need to be in peace with your emotion, how you feel, and ready to let others experience them. And this is probably the part I struggle the most with, because how this or that person will just interpret what you've written. You'll be judged, you'll be seen, you'll be discussed about. And to this day, I still struggle a lot about it. And until like a few months ago, I was still struggling to really explore these deep, dark thoughts and put them on paper. It's like still really new to me. But I think for my Arial quotes writer career, I think I need to explore them if I want to really, I don't know, really get to this point where I can start healing. I don't know if it makes sense, but it's kind of a healing process.
Yeah, that's right. So what's been the hardest part? I know you just sort of like hit on it a little bit, but what's been the hardest part about writing for horror?
I will start with the hardest part at all, and this is the fact that as people will listen to this podcast will discover quickly, I'm not English is not my first language, so I speak French. And when I started writing, I tried writing in French, and nope, I just couldn't. I didn't want to write in French. There was a bigger audience in English, much bigger, and I saw it as a challenge too. So, and I'm always up for a good challenge. So I started writing in English, and to really write so I don't sound like it's a foreign language to me was the hardest part. As far as art goes, the hardest part for me was to get into more modern horror writers, because I started with H.P. Lovecraft and late 18th and 19th century stuff, so and early 20th stuff, and it transpired in my writing because it was kind of old-fashioned. So, but it helped me develop my writing style too, which is apparently more I don't know, poetics or whatever. So to combine horrific matter into a story, to add it dark without necessarily get into all the gory stuffs, and have something more I don't know, psychological, or more into the character, how he sees his environment, and make it horrific. This was my challenge, because that's the stuff I personally like. An example, my favorite book is The Exorcist. And The Exorcist, there's no gory stuff or whatever, but the ambience is thick. It's all about the mood. It's all about the interaction with the young girl and the demons and the priest and all. So that's what I wanted to recreate, this kind of ambience, this kind of atmosphere. So this is what I struggled most with, or what, not struggle, but work the most on.
Fantastic. So what's been the most difficult scene that you've ever had to write, Eric?
It's it's not much of a spoiler. So though it's a scene I've worked on many times, differently in different circumstances, but I work a lot around children's suffering and children's dying, but not just he's been killed or whatever. Stories driven around the fact that a kid is, an example, sick, or he will die. or she will die or whatever. And the whole story or the whole scenes is gravitates around this particular event. Or so and my father I'm a father of two, so writing is kind of scenes or writing about children suffering or whatever. This is what this is the artist scenes or artist matters for me to write about, but almost also the most powerful too. They speak of they speak of, I don't know, struggles and things happening in our modern society, and I try to reflect those stuff into yes, children or whatever suffering and having a really hard time. And yeah, I'm searching my words. Sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry. You carry on.
Yay.
So that's what you found more difficult, writing about the children.
Yeah, and I've written a bit of stories and scenes about it, like 6 Days to Hell, which is a dystopian story about a virus. And unfortunately, when I wrote this book, no, when I had the idea of this book, it was before the COVID-19 pandemic. So I was like, cool idea. I just recently rewatched 12 Monkeys, the movie, and it inspired me the story. So I was like, cool. I noted everything, outlined the whole book, and then about the COVID-19 pandemic, and I was like, what do I do? Do I really write this story, or it's kind of, I don't know, useless? Everyone starts writing about this book viruses and blah 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 and a pandemic, and so what's the matter? I did it anyway, and I found a way to write about a kid who's been infected and his days are counted. So the whole book is about mostly that. It's a bit about like The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and this kind of ambience. So it was a hard one to write. In my latest horror novel, BENIGHTED, there's almost an entire chapter about what the family of four were going to do about the encroaching darkness that was the shadow that was coming to them, and they were facing a dilemma. What do? They just kill themselves, or they fight this thing coming to them and try to survive. And yeah, there was a particular scene in this chapter where it deals with a lot of heavy stuffs. So, and I remember I wrote a drabble about a father and a sick son who was dying, and the father had a shotgun with him, and he was alone with the kid, and he waited. His son just gave his last breath before pulling the trigger. So yeah.
Do you think your writing is most let me get my words out, is based around your fear of being a father, do you think?
Oh, sorry, could you repeat? Sorry, I misunderstood.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Do you think your writing is based about being a father?
Yeah, totally, yes.
Your fears.
I discovered when we had our first when my girlfriend gave birth to our first son, that we couldn't watch the same movies we used to before. An example, we were allotted to deep trash horror movie, the most underground stuff, and the most violent the stuff of nightmares, and we were a lot into that. And the moment we had our first son, we were just unable to watch them anymore. And to me, it took years before I could watch again this kind of stuff, this kind of movies, or just movies about kids dying or whatever. Like we watched Sons of Anarchy, and for those who have watched the series, there's a season where the kids is kidnapped, and Jack's kids. And I remember it was heavy, and my girlfriend and I watched each other, and we were like, shit, do we continue to fast forward something? Is it going to end? And what's going on? And we were not sure if we wanted to continue watching it, because we didn't know what would happen to the kid. And that was about the kind of mood having kids set us into. So writing about this kind of stuff was really hard to me, but it helped overcome this fear that you could lose your kids, they could get sick, they could die, you could lose everything you have.
Yeah.
You can't live with this fear gripping at your stomach all your lives. So you need to expunge it. And I remember when I was a boy and I watched the Disney adaptation of A Christmas Carol, and Tiny Tim dies, and this particular scenes where you see the family and around Tombstone, and I remember it just destroyed me. And I was like 5 or 6, and the idea of having a kid dying, I don't know, it's stuck to me all these years, and still today it keeps sticking at me and grip at my stomach.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I'm a parent myself. I can't watch Train Spotting. I don't know whether you've seen that film.
Oh yeah.
With the baby. I can't watch it. I watched it once and I had to turn it off. And I've never been able to watch it ever again, and I never will.
I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, Train Spotting is wild.
Okay, so have you had any memorable pieces of feedback that sort of like made an impact on you?
Yeah, consistency, and having a system, which means discovering what you can get done, what you can pull, how, when, to become a writer who can who knows exactly what you can do in a day, when you can do it, and make the best of it. So I struggled before with the whole consistency thing, and I tried to sit and write. It was just I was not in the mood or in the right place. It was too late, too early, whatever. And I came across can't remember where, but someone was talking about developing your system and working on your consistency, because the two kind of goes together. So I started tracking my my writing progress every day. When can I get the most writing done? How, where, or whatever. And this way, I build my own system, and now I can basically write anywhere or anytime, because I know what I could do. I know where I can do it. I know exactly what I must do to get it done. So it was a bit of a challenge. It took a bit of months to get the whole system in place, but it really helped me to get more stories done, to get them order, to get them done, in fact, and not just a few blurry lines on the notepad that will never end to a story.
Mm-hmm. So what have readers said about your books?
Sorry?
What have readers said about your books?
Oh, sorry. I just didn't catch.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, could you repeat, please?
Yeah, of course. So what have the readers said about your books?
Oh, yeah. Basically, people usually talk about my prose and the way I write, maybe in a bit more poetic way. The ambience, it may be more of a slow burn usually, but work more on the ambience, the sense of oppression, and I'm not much into action-packed books and action-packed stories, so they're more into atmospheric kind of reads. So yeah, if people get into my stuff, they will see it's not much about just action or gory stuff. It's a lot more about character-driven stories, in fact. So yeah.
Fantastic. So have you got any exciting projects coming up?
Yeah, a lot of them. I cannot talk about any of them, but I've just finished, and yeah, fortunately, I've just finished writing we'll say the sequel to Benighted, so the second book, because Benighted, my latest horror novel, is part of a series of 3 books. So I've just finished writing the second book, and I sent it to my editor / publisher. So I'm really excited about it. And currently I'm working on a sequel to my short story I published earlier this year, and which is called Will-O-the-Wisp. And this one I use as a reader magnet. So I just took the short story, made an ebook with it, and gave it for free. And people loved it, and the reviews are really good. So it pushed me to think, okay, I could just do a sequel to it, something longer, like a novella or whatever. So I started thinking about it, and right now I'm writing the novella, which is the sequel to Will-O-the-Wisp, and I'm really excited about it. I have another novella that I've just finished outlining, and I should start writing it like probably in a month or early January.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure I could publish probably 1 novel and maybe 3 novella next year, if I'm lucky.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. So what advice would you give to someone who wants to write horror?
To not do the same mistake I did and avoid all the nasty stuff you have inside of you, like all the fears, all the trauma, all the existential dreads you have. Use it to write your stories, because that's what will make them genuine and will make them relatable to people. So don't be afraid to push boundaries, to cross lines. Don't be afraid to explore probably what you might consider too dark a path. Go ahead, do it, because it might even be a healing process for you, and you might just overcome some fears of yours. That's personally what I think it's doing for me. And I'm someone really, really, really anxious, struggling a lot with anxiety and self-doubt and plenty of nasty stuff that I won't talk here. So using mental health, we'll say, issues in my stories really helped me heal in a sense. And I think people who want to write horror should not be afraid to explore these issues, because horror is not just about gores and blood and decapitation or whatever. There's a whole lot of different genre or whatever, existential dread, psychological horror, and so on. So don't be afraid, or to explore many genres. You can write splatterpunk and your next story is cosmic horror. It's fine. I do it myself. I like to play between psychological horror or paranormal or even cosmic horror. It's fine. It's fun. Don't be afraid. Don't just do always the same thing. If you want to try something else, do it. Don't be afraid.
Fantastic. So where can we find your books?
The easiest way will be on my website, elgilesauthor.com. There's a section called books. So all my standalone books are listed there. Then there's also a section called stories. So all the anthologies I have short stories or drabble published in are listed there. So the easiest way to know what I've written so far is to visit my website or my Linktree. Yeah, Linktree. Everything listed there too.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, Eric. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.